Good evening. My name is Becky Newell, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Collier County. We're delighted to welcome you to this candidate forum, and we thank you for your interest and attendance. Please stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor endorses nor opposes any candidate or political party. Our mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government. One way to be active is to vote, and we encourage you to vote in the August 26th primary, which is when this race will be decided. All registered voters in the Board of County Commission District 4 may vote regardless of political party. You must be registered by July 28th in order to vote in this election. There are 3 ways that you can vote. You can vote by mail-in ballot, which you must request from the Supervisor of Elections office, or you may vote during early voting in August from the 16th to the 23rd, or you may vote in your home precinct on August 26th. Another way to be an active participant is to run for office, and we thank each of these candidates for their willingness to represent residents of Collier County. We also wish to thank the Board of County Commissioners and their staff for the use of this facility and for broadcasting this forum. We've given you white cards as you've come in the door this evening, and if you have questions for the candidate, you may write your questions on those cards and submit them to one of our hostesses. They'll be reviewed for suitability and to avoid redundancy, and we may not get to all of the questions. I'd like to now introduce Joyce Fletcher, our Voter Service Chair, and she'll explain the format for this evening.
The 2 candidates seated before you are the candidates running in the August 26th primary election for District 4. They are seated alphabetically. They are Levine Kirkpatrick to your left and Penny Taylor to your right. Their order of speaking has been determined by drawing a number. This is a primary election. However, since both candidates are from the Republican Party and there is no challenger from another party, all registered voters in District 4 are eligible to vote in this primary, and one of these 2 candidates will be elected in that election. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce herself to you, giving her a short history, her reason for running, and the primary agenda she would like to accomplish. Then we will begin the rounds of questions. The same question will be addressed to both candidates. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the question. If a candidate wishes to counter the other's answer, they will have 1 minute and they can counter a question only once. These time frames must be honored by all candidates. Our timekeeper, Sue Bookbinder, who is over to my left, will give a 30-second warning, and that will be the yellow light on the monitor here. We're ready for your opening statements, and we'll start with you, Ms. Taylor.
Actually, you're going to start with me if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
The drawing. Good evening, residents of Collier County, and thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters here in Collier County. I believe that many of us here locally and nationally are very concerned, have kind of lost our confidence in what government really is. That is my primary goal of what I want to do, is help us restore our confidence in government. And I think we can do that by being principled leaders, decision makers, and also people who actually are solution makers too, who solve problems. Over the last 7 years, I have served you on the Florida Board of Nursing, which is the board that actually is responsible for 550,000 nurses, all the nurses here in the state of Florida. We manage budgets. We also have saved the taxpayers' money, and we actually have improved the education of many of our nurses in the state. I've also had great experience in business and administration. As the previous director of nursing, I have handled million-dollar budgets, worked with employees and their issues by collaborating, cooperating with them. And I've also worked with streamlining the production and the processing and protocols of nurses and all administrative people within facilities and different agencies. One of the other things that I really hold close to my heart is public service. I have worked as an eval manager with Eval Hospice for the last 10 years. I have served 2 years on the Relay of Life for East Naples. I also serve on the board of directors for the Senior Resources Management Group that actually is going to be opening a senior center in Golden Gate. And I also have done many other volunteer work, including with the Champions for Learning. To me, it's really important that we have leadership that are good decision makers and good problem solvers. And I decided after my last election that I would go back to school, and I did. I went to Florida State University, and in 2012 got my degree, my bachelor's degree in social science and public policy. I will be one of the only seated persons that has a certificate in county and city management. I was on the honor roll and the dean's list. It is very, very important to me to have myself educated and prepared as the best person to be in this seat sitting up here for all of you. 3 things I'd like to do: beach renourishment. We're still having problems with that. We need a plan. And we need a plan for what are we going to become in this community. We've heard economic development for 10 years. We need to decide, are we going to keep people that are employed here and trained here? What are we going to do to diversify the economy? And I make a promise that I will only serve 2 terms when I am elected. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
Thank you very much. And my name is Penny Taylor. I'm a Republican running for District 4 County Commission. And I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum and for working tirelessly with the public to inform them for almost a century. And I think I'm right, 94 years. Congratulations. As many of you know, I have been a resident of Naples for 35 years. I've raised my daughter here and established a business that is moving into its 32nd year on 10th Street South in Naples. I have served old and young. I call many of my clients friends, and I'm a small business, and I'm a woman-owned business, and it's successful. I understand profit and loss statements, what budgets are about. I also understand to hire and, unfortunately, sometimes fire people. I've had to do that. But through the whole thing, I understand that business is so important. It's been my livelihood, and business is my base. However, I also have been very fortunate to be elected to the Naples City Council with a nonpartisan board. I was there for 10 years. I was there when the towers fell, and I was there when the economy took a nosedive. I know what it's like to shake the hand of someone and then the next week find out that they had been let go because we couldn't keep them because there were cutbacks. I know what it's like to stand alone and vote on an issue despite the overwhelming majority of people on my council that wanted me to change my mind. I have a track record. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm considered a hard worker, and I do my research. I also have been a volunteer with 20 charities over these years, volunteering my services, my photographic services. And I'm very honored that this year I was given the Volunteer of the Year Award for Legal Aid. It's very gratifying, and I'm very humbled by that. As we go forward, what would I like to do? I want to work hard for you to preserve your quality of life in Collier County. I feel that we live in a great, great county. And by the way, if you don't know this, we have been acknowledged as having the second in the state of Florida for health. We are the second healthiest county in Florida. We have wonderful medical facilities and specialists and treatment areas. And what I'd like to do is work on that track record and move it so that we become renowned internationally for our medical offering.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce my co-moderator, Kathleen Slobodnik, another member of our League of Women Voters and a past president. Kathleen will begin the rounds of questioning.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank both of you for your kind words regarding the League. We'll be celebrating our 100th birthday in the year 2020, so we've been around for quite a while. My first question is regarding the bed tax. Should Collier County increase the bed tax for additional revenue for the Tourist Development Council? Should there be a reallocation of the way funds are currently being spent? Should we continue to increase the amount for tourism production? Ms. Taylor, you are first on this one.
We can increase the bed tax all we want, but the problem is with the way the ordinance is written. We need to rewrite the ordinance. We need to ensure that the intentions of the ordinance are honored. Right now, it's very vague. There's no clear percentage allotted beach renourishment. There's no clear percentage for advertising, and it's really the whim of who is sitting here in the commission, how it's going to go. So my concern is increasing the bed tax is not going to solve the problem. What we have to do is rewrite the ordinance so it's very clear how much goes to beach, how much goes to advertising, to museums, et cetera, and then bring it to the public to see. I thought Fred Coyle's idea of doing a straw vote, I believe it was in November, was a very good idea.
Thank you. Ms. Kirkpatrick?
I definitely think that we need to look at considering raising the bed tax. It is not the only option, but it's something we do need to look at. We have one of the lowest bed taxes in the state of Florida. As we know, we just spent $9 million on beach renourishment, and we already have passages closing. It was a Band-Aid. So it's an option that we have. It is something that is paid by visitors that come here. This is not by the local people. It is for people that come and stay. But also we need to look at where do those allocations go. I think it's already been discussed with the commission that they have been thinking about decreasing the actual allocation toward advertisement. And I can remember when we had the BP oil spill, when we could have been using some more advertisement that we didn't have oil on our beaches. We had probably more businesses closed than any other businesses. So it's something we need to look at. We have to compare it. People say this is raising taxes, but they have raised taxes on other things, on your gas tax. I think it's something we seriously need to look at. But more importantly, we need a plan for beach renourishment. We don't have one. Beaches have not just arrived here. They have been here for ever since I've been here, which is 18 years. And it's a little curious to me why it is that our public officials haven't come up with a plan. And maybe we wouldn't have to be looking at the beach renourishment and the bed tax like we're looking at it. But we have got to come up with a plan, and it's something we should consider. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will go to Ms. Kirkpatrick first. Much of District 4 is in East Naples. What do you see as the role of the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency, and what direction should they take with their debt load and real estate inventory?
Actually, Actually, you're correct. Now, 66% of District 4 is now makes up outside of the city of Naples. There's the city of Naples and the other direction, so it's about 66%. And I think that the CRA has they are looking at presently, I've gone to several of the meetings where they are looking at options of selling the properties and building on them. I think in some senses they need to be cautious because they're selling them for much lower than they actually have the debt for, and they actually originally got the properties for the government. So we have to be cautious. We have to make sure that it complements the area. And then again, I will go back to, you're going to see a consistent thing tonight for me to say, we don't really have a plan. We don't have a plan for the CRA Bayshore area. We don't have a plan for the Triangle area. You're the people. What do you want your community to look like? We need to see it. We need to have it in writing. So we need a definite plan, but they are selling some of the properties, and I think that was the question, to help pay for that debt and get some building on it so we have revenue coming in as far as taxes. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
I don't mean to disagree with my opponent, but there is a plan. It's called the CRA. There's an over zoning that has been in that specific area. It determines what can be built. There's specifications. It also determines, it encourages investment in the area. That's the plan. That's what a CRA is all about. When those properties were purchased, it was in the heyday of the early 2000, I guess 4, 5, 6, when we really thought this party would go on forever. And of course it didn't. And so they got caught with that money, but it was done very innocently in that sense. It was really done because they had to buy the property to destroy the shacks that were on it and to try to clean up the neighborhood. Since then, when the economy dropped, they had to refinance, and they've done an extraordinary job with it. And now properties are selling. Every property, I've been told, in the CRA that's for sale by the CRA has an offer or interest on it. This has never happened. So going forward, I think it's an exciting time for this area. Bayshore is alive. I've spent a lot of time there, and I think it has a bright future. We've got Opera Naples going in to the CRA district. It is happening, and it's just going to take time.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment on that.
You have 1 minute.
Actually, there is a CRA restrictions, but when I'm speaking of a plan, I'm talking about when we look at Bayshore, actually the boulevard, what do we want there? The theater may go in. That's not a definite thing. Do we want restaurants along there? Do we want residential along there? When you go to these meetings, the CRA board actually makes decisions about different properties coming in. They're talking about a property that's possibly going to be assisted living that may go in the Triangle area. I'm talking about visually seeing a drawing, a plan of what is that area going to look like, and they don't have that yet. So that's what I'm talking about, is a plan. Thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
There's no way, unless we live in a socialist society or socialist area, there's no way that we can determine what's going to go in there because of the property owners. There's very, very many different property owners, and there's an underlying zoning. So the idea that you can somehow determine make it look like 3rd Street, it's not going to happen. 3rd Street works because there's one owner. On Bayshore, there's multiple owners with different ideas of what they want to do, and various zoning.
Thank you.
The next area is impact fees, and this will be addressed to Ms. Taylor first. The county reduced some impact fees during the recession. What do you think should be the policy going forward?
That growth pays for growth. And I know there's discussion about, reducing the impact fees or even putting them, sunsetting them for a short period of time. And I don't think that's a bad idea. It's just where we're going to get the money for the growth, because we all know this. And if you don't, just take a drive on the East Trail towards 951. We are in a growth pattern right now. And it is there, it's moving, and we have to be able to pay for growth. If we somehow, right now, Lee County, who put their, I think they reduced them and maybe even sunsetted them for a while. Right now, they're going into their conservation money to pay for their infrastructure. We as taxpayers will pay for the maintenance, but the people that are going to come here need to pay for the infrastructure. So call it impact fees, call it whatever you want. I do not support reducing them.
Ms. Kirkpatrick.
Well, I have a different viewpoint of this. First of all, there is the expression growth pays for growth. But if anybody's bought in a home in Collier County, the people that build it, they add the impact fees under the price of your house. When you go, and by the way, we have new people that are building things here that they've had businesses for a long time, and they're adding on to them, or they're making them a little bigger. The impact isn't any different, but they're paying impact fees. Some of the highest impact fees that we have is in the medical business. And we're talking about being a medical tourism place. We need to look at our impact fees. There have been 3 separate economic reports and a recent one, Opportunity Naples, that have come out that say impact fees are a deterrent. We have the highest impact fees pretty much in the state of Florida. So we do need to look at them. Do we put them on a moratorium? Do we lower them in different levels? Impact fees, and this is important for people to know, when a person has a business, they move their impact fees onto the product or the services that they give you. They do. Impact fees cannot be used for maintenance. They can only be used for capital. And we got ourselves in some real trouble with that. We are still $550 million in debt in Collier County. So if it really pays for growth, we must have made a mistake somewhere, or we wouldn't have been in the debt we're in. So I think we need to be very cautious, and we need to look at it, and it is a viable option to lower or put a moratorium in impact fees for our economy. Thank you.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
The impact fees are a device or a vehicle by which we assess the cost of building to the people who want to build. Where are we going to assess that cost if we do away with impact fees? And I have yet to hear anyone come up with a solution. The danger is, if we do away or reduce or sunset for a period of time impact fees, is that the growth is continuing. And it will go on our backs as taxpayers. What happened in the 90s, late 90s into 2000, is that the commission decided that they didn't want to build roads. They ignored the infrastructure. And consequently, I was on city council and the swing vote that said that the county could tap into our sewers, because if they didn't, the sewer would be right, the slush would be on the street.
Thank you. Joyce? Our next question has to do with contracts that the board approves. What do you think the BCC should do about the situation with county employees whose contracts were extended by the board, then terminated, and the court has since ruled in favor of at least one of these individuals? Should contracts, particularly employment contracts, be subject to review within two meetings after they are approved, as is the current board policy?
Ms. Kirkpatrick first.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, this particular issue was allowing them to vote it, and they've done this a couple times where they can re-vote the issue back up. They actually renewed a person's contract, and then they brought the issue back up. I just have a fundamental concerned when you vote on accepting a contract for a person. A contract is two agreements. And when somebody does not follow through that agreement, there's going to be consequences for that. It's not any different than when you buy a home and you purchase a home from someone, and the person that you purchase it from agrees to sell it to you, and then you decide you're going to back out of the contract. Money goes to that person who owns the home. Now, if they're going to just extend it and then review it, that's a different issue in some senses. But I think when you made an agreement with an employee and you've had their contract, that's a done deal with the contract. We're looking at different things. We've had something recently happen with a superintendent, and maybe these things need to be looked at a statute, at a state law, that when contracts are approved, they're approved in a certain period of time. We are costing the citizens a lot of money by going back and renewing and fighting these contracts. We have, I think, one and maybe two more issues coming up where we have got employees that are suing the county government, and it's your taxpayer dollar that's doing it. So there are two commissioners that let this go. I agree with them on that one.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
I think the decision or the question that you asked will ultimately be decided in the courts, obviously, from what happened this week on the county commission. However, it is my strong belief that you honor contracts, and that when you have a contract, it's not the winds of the political, well, I guess I would call it the political whim at the time that changes that. There are some things that can be overturned by a change of commission, but not employment contracts, no.
Thank you.
The next area is, Ms. Taylor, you'll be first on this one. This is an indication of the increasing property values in Collier County. There have been several planning commission hearings lately where owners of properties who previously agreed to accept grants for low-income housing have come back to have those plans voided, return the grant, and accept lower density for not including income for lower-income housing. What do we do to assure that we have housing for our public and private service workers?
In the state of Florida, it's the carrot. You know, we can't force folks to do that, and that was the way they did it. Increased density, and we'll give it to you, and therefore you can put low-income housing within your development. We're not inventing the wheel. Communities are facing this all over the nation. I think we need to really look at it again, because obviously in today's world with property values, the increased density is not doing what it needs to do. I've been told that we have lots of low-income housing in Collier County. I have yet to be told where that lots is.
Ms. Kirkpatrick?
Well, I think the question becomes low income. There's always been a question in this community what exactly that is. We recently had a comment made that there was some housing that was going to start at $500,000, and that was affordable for teachers and firemen and nurses. And I think we need to go back to, is it workforce housing? What are we talking about, and what do we need? And we need jobs for some of these people. Do we have those? We have a lot of residential areas being built. Supposedly there's going to be about 15,000 more homes built. And do we have jobs for these people? Is there going to be a place for their partner to come or their spouse? One of the issues with Hertz was when they were coming down here was some of their families that were coming had teachers and nurses and firemen and other people coming with them. So I don't really think promising a builder, if they put this certain raised density affordable housing, is going to help us in any area at all, because I don't know what the mark price of what affordable housing is. And especially with the housing market, we're looking at people that need to put about 20% down now on a house. And we're already in Collier County past that mark. So we've got a lot of work to do to have workforce housing, affordable housing in this county. I, like my opponent, I don't really see it available. And I don't think that's going to help the builder or help solve our problem.
Do you see think these contracts should be voided then and taken a second look at? I'm not sure I understand your answer.
Well, if you've already entered into a contract with them, then you're going to have to go through some kind of suit for that contract.
Okay.
We're going to have to stick to the agreement of the contract. If they're willing to renegotiate the contract, then there may be something we can do. But I don't think it's going to help solve the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Next question. Ms. Kirkpatrick first. What is your opinion of the market services survey that Opportunity Naples just did that shows a split between seasonal residents who are not in favor of growth and year-round residents who are much more pro-growth? How do we preserve what is good about our life in the paradise of Collier County and grow our economy at the same time?
Well, that is the $20 billion question for Collier County, isn't it? I've lived here almost 2 decades, and there's a fighting force that once I get here, no one else comes in. Has anybody ever heard that? And I came here in 1996. I haven't been here 30 years, but I moved to Florida in 1973, so I've really seen what it's like. I don't like the word smart growth. I think that's a word people like to use. I think we need to use what's called responsible growth. We need to listen to our people that live in the neighborhoods of where certain things are going to be built. And I go back to the plan because it is. It's what do they want their neighborhood to look like? What do they want it to become? The city of Naples has their own city government, and they can determine what they want the city of Naples to look like. We've got an area out east that wants to grow in some areas. Let's call it what it is. We don't want to call it growth. Maybe we should call it progress. But there are people that want to open a business, build a home on land that they own. But we have to do it carefully. We have to do it safely, and we have to do it responsibly. And that would be my word, with the input of the citizens, because I have a full faith and belief that the citizens are the ones that want and should have a say in how our community is developed. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor?
The underlining zoning, unfortunately or fortunately, depends which side of the fence you sit on. There's underlining zoning throughout the whole county. And what that determines is the density, what can be built, the type of what can be built. If you drive out east and you see these new developments, the good news is instead of leaving the required 20% in open space, they are now leaving 40%. The good news is they're not building golf courses as much as they do. They're kind of like getting into the hiking trails and the kayaking in these wonderful gated developments. It is very difficult. This is a very difficult balance. It's something that I would like to do. That's what I want to work for. I want to preserve our quality of life. It's what we came here for. One of the things we must do, though, is preserve our environment and protect our environment, because that's why we're here. Where would we be if we had polluted Gulf of Mexico on our beaches and there was oil on our beaches? Where would we be if we didn't have an Everglades at our doorstep? We are in such a wonderfully magical, rich, wonderful place that no one can duplicate. No one can duplicate where we are, and we must protect it. And at the same time, protect the rights of property owners and landowners and give them the peace of mind that their investment is safe. Thank you.
This next question kind of is an example of what we were just on the previous question, and that's the news of a possible 24-pump racetrack facility, gasoline station, I guess, built on Route 41 East. Although it's not in the city of Naples, it would certainly be of interest to the residents. And the surrounding residential neighborhoods are opposed to this. What is your position on this potential approval?
Wow.
I'm going to ask you first and then.
Thank you. Thank you. The underlining zoning allows a gas station to go in there. the space allows a gas station of this size to be built there. So the law says it can be built there. Is it the right place for it? No. It's going to be nestled against a residential area, a neighborhood that is it's a very active and very vital neighborhood. The good news is that they have to come before the county commission because they have to vacate, the part of the development requires a vacation of a road. And that road cannot be vacated without the blessing of these commissioners. And also, it's a gas station going to be built within 100 yards of another gas station. That is totally against the code. So it'll be up to the seated commissioners at the time whether this is going to be built. And if I was up here, I would vote no. But at the same time, we're going to have this, again, being repeated and repeated unless we change the underlying zoning. And my proposal is to make certain uses within the CRA conditional, which means they have to meet certain conditions before they can be built. And one of the conditions in this case is they are not anywhere close to residential development. It's a very charming, wonderful place where people live and have worked and have invested their money, and they don't deserve this.
Thank you. Ms. Kirkpatrick, what do you think about racetrack?
Well, I guess this is where it goes back to a plan. You know, we can talk about zoning and the rules and regulations and ordinances. That can all be changed. If the commission gets up here and votes certain ways, things can change. For those of you who've been here a long time, you've seen that. So we do need a plan, and we need to talk to the neighbors and see what they want to have. I've actually already spoken to them, and I know there's 2 variances that need to be done. This is very close to a residential area. And if I were going to vote on it today as it stands, I would say no, but it is not that easy a job to get that done. But it is important to have a plan. It's important for them to decide if they don't want that, what would they like to have there? Because I know the residents there are very concerned about 41 as it heads into the triangle. And what is that area going to look like on the East Trail? So that would be my answer, no, right now, because that's what the residents I'm hearing from them.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question has to do with a subject that has been in our news a lot lately, and in fact, the DEP secretary was actually in town yesterday. Drilling for oil, possible fracking, oil spills, and the possible consequences that could be related to our drinking water and environment have become very hot topics. What do you think should be the role of the Commission in relation to these problems, especially with the well near Lake Trafford or the potential for a new well close to residential housing in Golden Gate Estates? Ms. Kirkpatrick, you're first.
Well, my answer is going to be very simple to a very, I guess, what we'd like to make out to be a very difficult question. The number 1 role of government and responsibility is to keep you safe. I believe that. I've been a registered nurse for 30 years. I sit on a board of nursing responsible for 550,000 nurses, and our job is to keep you, the citizens, safe. I've done it for 7 years. So that's a priority. In saying that, so that's their limit. And the county commissioners have a limit as to what they can do on this issue. That's their limitation. However, we have to make sure we're getting all the facts. And right now, there's a lot of information coming in. They need to maintain the safety. Now they're talking about lawsuits, so we have to be watching where we're going on this because we need to make sure we have all the facts on the issues. We have, all of you are owners of Pepper Ranch, and it was bought by Conservation Collier, and we have 2 full pumping wells out there of oil. And we haven't had an accident in 70 years, from what I've heard from the experts, and I hope we continue in that direction that we don't. But we do have some limitations because these are state regulations. But I think we need to be the watchdog, make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to, and that the people and the residents are kept safe. While we still respect the owner of the property, but people need to be safe. Number 1 important thing.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
I think the recent developments with the well near Lake Trafford and what going forward, the fracking-like drilling, which is now upon us because of the price of oil and the interest in plumbing that oil from our limestone base, has been very fortunate, because what we are doing now is we are developing a plan, the commissioners are, by which everyone who wants to drill for oil, and they can, because there are mineral rights and it's the law, and therefore they can come in, but they have to follow the rules. They have to go through several steps to ensure the health and safety of our environment and of our citizens. So I applaud what the commissioners have done. I think they've been absolutely on point. I think to have unanimous decisions in this day of dissension and problems and all these complex issues is a wonderful, wonderful sign that we're Collier County and we want to protect our citizens. We want to protect our environment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question is Ms. Taylor first, and that has to do with climate change and sea level rise. 5 southeastern Florida counties have joined to become the Southeast Regional Climate Compact to establish a Southeast Florida Climate Action Plan. They made a vulnerability analysis of sea level change focused on infrastructure like water reserves, wastewater treatment, landfills, hospitals, and evacuation routes. Should Collier County be concerned about sea level rise, and how should we address this issue?
Oh, yes, Collier County should be concerned about sea level rise, whether you believe that it's from what we're doing to the environment or whether it's natural. The sea is rising. I am fascinated by what's going on at the East Coast. I do not understand why we still think that somehow we're immune to sea level rise and somehow we can ignore the signposts. I would like to see us join with other counties, and we have a template. It's the East Coast. It's what they've done. So why not do the same over here? Why not assess our vulnerabilities and theorize and think about what would happen if the sea level rose 3 or 4 inches? What would this affect? The storm sewers are now practically useless in Miami because of the sea level rise. We're not immune to that. When I was on city council, there were certain regulations that came down from the fire department were affecting condominiums on the beaches. And as a city, we joined with other cities and created a consortium and actually went to the state to lobby them to minimize the incredible cost it was going to cost each condominium to somehow retrofit according to the standards that were being proposed. Because we were together, we won. And I think going forward, we need to reach out to communities up our coast and different counties and to work together to solve these problems.
Thank you. One of the questions that we did receive from the audience did speak about the problems in Miami and the sewers that they are having, sewer problems that they are having there. So I just want to acknowledge that that was a question also from our audience.
All right.
Ms. Kirkpatrick, your response, please.
Well, the bad news is water flows downhill, and we're at the bottom edge of where the water flows. There's a lot of debate about global warming and whether it's going to happen or not. I don't think I'm going to be here when the sea rises 4 feet, but that's the rumor that I've heard it may do. So maybe those bed tax monies might come in handy to help nourish the beach then if the water's 4 feet high. I do think we need to take it seriously, and I think we need to look at the options of what we can do as a community and realize that we are not just Collier County. And when it comes to water issues, it's not just what happens in Collier County. It happens in Lee County, what happens in Sarasota and Manatee. And we've got to work all together when it comes to, with our coastline, period. be it beach renourishment, be it watching the rising of the water. We've got to work together because it's going to be a coastal issue. It's not going to be just a Collier County issue. So I think working together with other communities is a good idea, and it's something we need to research and take seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have an audience question for our next question. This has to do with transportation within our county. What do you see as our needs in terms of mass transportation, and what can we do to not increase our automobile transportation with things like non-motorized paths or opportunities? And that will be yours first, Ms. Kirkpatrick.
Another one of the organizations that I sit on is actually a healthy coalition for Collier County. I go back to planning again. Nurses kind of plan. That's what we do because we like to prevent issues, and we're proactive in things rather than waiting until something bad happens. But this particular committee, we actually sit there and talk about communities that actually are walkable communities. I've gone out and done walkability tests myself. One of our goals is to get more people on buses rather than using cars. We have a lot of people who don't have cars when we talk about affordable transportation. And if we could come up with a system that, and they're working on raising some of their own money by advertisement and different things, we would actually maybe be number one as the healthiest community rather than number two. But we are looking at ways of making the bus stops more easily for people to sit in. Sometimes it's difficult when they're out in the rain, making it more tractable to different people riding. We're not a community that really looks at bus riding as like a popular thing we all want to do. So there's a lot of things we're working on to help promote the health and incentives to get people to go and use the buses so they stop walking here and there, maybe even using park and ride as a system too. And building our communities accessible to these bus routes.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
Mass transportation is going to become increasingly important as we grow. So building roads to handle the cars. I'm not sure you're going to ever get a walkable community where everyone walks, but people walk in smaller areas and in smaller neighborhoods. And bicycling is very, very important, and it's becoming more popular. I think that we have to ensure safe roads. We have to be very clear and plan forward for mass transportation. I know we need more of it. And it's not just for the folks that work in our hotels or need to get from Immokalee to Marco. It's for us to get around our community without having to get in a car. It's a hard sell for society, not just here, but I think the nation as a whole, to embrace a mass transportation the way they do in Europe. But we must look forward, and we must plan forward and do it.
Thank you.
This is a question also from a concern to the people that are here. On June 19th, a developer petitioned the Planning Commission to build 938 feet, 42-foot boat dock along the south shore of Haldeman Creek. Are you opposed or in favor of this petition? Ms. Kirkpatrick first.
Well, I actually...
Are you aware of what we're talking about?
I know exactly what we're talking about. I was at the meeting, actually, and I actually thought that they had gone partly through the permitting process and it had been denied already, if I'm not mistaken. So are you asking me the question, what I think about it, or are you asking me what...
It has been denied.
Oh, it has been denied, but
Yes.
could be appealed.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not much of a voter. I know I was in the meeting when they were talking about it, and they say that basically if they build the docks outwardly, it will cause a narrowing and passageway for the boatways to go through, and this is the big contention. I think we need some more information on it. I don't have all the information. I haven't actually been out in the creek to actually look at the dimensions. Right now, the only thing I can go on is what they're telling me as far as the people that do not want it and the people that say it's okay and meets the requirements and the laws that they can have it there. So right now, I don't have an answer for that. I think that they would like to have the boat docks. They even said they could, if they did it parallel rather than out from the coastline to the creek. There's a question about the mangroves, if they're going to be destroying mangroves or they're going to build over the mangroves. So I need some more information before I would actually make a decision on that. And I don't have all the information on that at this point.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
The plan is proposed, which was finger docks and parallel docks, was ill-conceived. It's like putting, 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag. Haldeman Creek was dredged to allow passage, and there are shoals on either side. It's the wrong place. It's too much in the wrong place, and I'm delighted that it was defeated. And I hope that the developer, if they come back, comes back with something more reasonable.
Thank you.
The next one is also an audience question, and this relates to Amendment 1 for the ballot in November. And this question will go first to you, Ms. Taylor. Do you support Amendment 1 to restore funding to Florida Forever? If you do, what do you see as the benefits? And if not, why would you not be supportive?
Yes, I support it. I think it's very important. If we do not buy property that's for sale, it will not be preserved. And what would we be in Florida without open space? This is a very important issue coming before us, and I hope that the community and the state of Florida supports it.
Thank you. Ms. Kirkpatrick?
I have some concerns when we have organizations that decide they're going to buy certain lands to preserve. It goes back to what we're doing with beach renourishment and how we fund that money. Right now, 70% of Collier County is in preserves. And if it is managed appropriately, I am for it. But if it's mismanaged, I am against it. And that's my answer.
Thank you.
If this will be for Ms. Kirkpatrick first. If you believe there has been a loss of confidence in county government, now you may not believe that, but if you believe that there has been a loss of confidence that needs to be restored, what are the main things that you would do to correct and restore that confidence?
Well, I absolutely believe that. I don't care what side of the party you're on, I think most people have lost some confidence in their government. I think the first thing that needs to happen in Collier County is that we need to be a county where the commissioners get away from the politics, and sometimes that happens when you are career politicians, and they focus on the actual policies, looking at land development codes, look at what they're doing as far as writing and handling the policy part of government. That is the role of the county commission. The role of the county commission is not to manage the county, and they get involved in management all the time. They have many lawsuits from employees. They have all kinds of things that they do that go across the line of doing policy and managing. That would be one of the things that I would look at. I think that we need to be very cautious when we make decisions on a county commission. We need to ask ourselves, is it legal? Believe it or not, your commissioners have voted many times on things that are not legal. Is it ethical and is it moral? Those are the three things we need to ask ourselves when we make a decision. And we also need to feel that we don't vote that day if we cannot vote. And it's not the right thing to do. There's this feeling that we have to get it settled now. We have to watch very carefully how we vote and how we handle things. We also need to vote and think, what are the consequences when we make decisions? A lot of times we have a lot of public screaming and upset, and we need to do this, or we need to go this way, or we need to save money this way. There are consequences in every decision we make, and we don't think about the consequences. That's the reason people lose their trust and their faith and confidence in government, because of the decision making. We need to be principled people. The budget and all that is fine, but that's where we need to start. We need to reorganize. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor?
I think what's happened in Collier County and there has been a loss of confidence in the commission, is the unwillingness to listen. It's the unwillingness to involve the citizens on boards. It is disbanding boards. It is also having boards resign. It's giving someone a contract and then deciding that for whatever reason that contract is null and void. There's a culture of fear among staff. There's micromanaging. There's lack of civility. And all those things come together in a mix that makes the public not want to be here, not want to get involved. Why would you want to get involved if you are going to possibly be criticized with cameras running? Why would you want to get involved if you are a focus of retribution? This is a cancer that's been spread that needs to be eradicated. It comes with leadership, with integrity. It comes with to bring civility and confidence back. It takes leadership, and it takes real experience within government. This is not a learn-as-you-go job. This is a tough job on the county commission and requires someone who understands government and is experienced.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That ends our questions. We will now go to our closing statements. Ms. Taylor, you will go first.
Thank you very much. Again, I'm very thankful that you've had this forum. I've been in them before, and it's always a wonderful experience. I want to work for you, Collier County, and certainly District 4 voters. I want to be the person that you can come to. You will have access with me. I will listen to you. My track record shows I'm a hard worker, I do my homework, and I make informed decisions. I'm a fiscal conservative, and I am a Republican. And that's very important, because as we move forward in Collier County, we need to have leadership that sees a future, a bright future, and I see it. I have ideas. I'm known as someone who can work with people, and I'm known as someone who is a leader. And I ask you for your vote on August the 26th. And again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Kirkpatrick, your closing statement.
I think often we believe, and I think in our minds, we think that experience really comes from being in government. Well, personally, I'm tired of people that have leadership because they have real government experience. I think one of the problems that has gotten us to where we are today is we have people that are experienced in government. I sit on a board. I have for 7 years. It is kind of a government board, but it's a board that makes decisions when a nurse does something very severe to a patient. I worked with hospice for 10 years. I've been all over this community in people's homes, talking to them about their death, one of the most tremendous conversations you could have with a human being. Compassion. Do we really have that anymore on any of our government boards? Do we have decision makers, principal decision makers? So I'm going to bring experience to the board, but it's going to be experience that comes from working, sitting on a board, with compassion, and I am hopeful that you will give me a vote on August 26th. My name is Levine Kirkpatrick. I am running for County Commission, District 4. Thank you.
Thank you.
In closing, I'd like to thank the Board of County Commissioners, both for their staff who are required to present this forum tonight and for the use of this wonderful facility. We also thank the candidates. We thank you for your participation, and we thank you for your willingness to help the voters understand your position elections. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Collier County, we wish you both well in this election. We're holding another forum tomorrow evening in the same location on July 10th from 6 to 8 p.m., and we will have the 9 candidates who are running for the 3 school board seats that are up for election this year. Voters, please remember that you have until July 28th to be registered or to make any changes to your voter registration in order to be eligible to vote in the August 26th primary. Be sure to confirm your party affiliation, your address, and your signature, and to make any changes that need to be made to your voter registration information. If you have any questions about the voting procedure or about finding your precinct, you can go to the Supervisor of Elections website at colliervotes.com, or you can call the Supervisor of Elections office at 239-252-VOTE. This is a very important election. In addition to this race for District 4 Commissioner, the August primary will have candidates and issues for all Collier County registered voters. Both the Democratic and Republican parties will have a primary for Florida Governor, and there will be a Democratic primary for Attorney General. There will be nonpartisan races for all Collier County voters for circuit court judges, a county judge, and the Collier County School Board Districts 1, 3, and 5. There will also be local ballot measures for voters in Marco Island and Isle of Capri. This evening's forum is being broadcast on Comcast Channel 97, the Collier County Government Channel. It will also be available for viewing online after this evening at colliergov.net in the video archive section. This video may not be used for promotional purposes, and we thank you for coming, and to all of our candidates, to both of our candidates tonight, we thank you for your willingness to serve and for your willingness to appear tonight.
Thank you.